Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm making some video about football. I don't really know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to talk. Hi, I'm Maggie. Welcome to the first of my videos about. I was originally going to do this. No, I hate all of this. I hate all of this footage that I've gotten so far. Blah, 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 blah. I should write a script. I feel like this. I feel like this should have a script for the introduction, but it doesn't. So recently, I've been writing a lot about football on Facebook. And I think it's been weirding some people out, given that um, my interests, as most people know them, are this. A lot of people who met me on Facebook met me because I'm a big fan of comic books. But interestingly, my comic book fandom is kind of similar in a lot of ways to my football fandom in that it started when I was a kid. Um, in a very specific way. I was a fan of very specific comic books, the way I was a fan of a very specific football team. While that's obviously much more common with football teams, it was also the case with comic books. I was very into Sandman comics, kind of gothier, weirder comic books. Most teen boys that I knew were into Marvel comics. They were into X-Men or they were into DC stuff, and I never read any of them. So when I was in my mid to late 30s, I went on some reading sprees of comic books that I never read as a kid. And in doing so, I made a lot of really great friends online. But most of those friends don't know. Before I was just like a weird, nerdy adult, I was a Bills fan. Because when you grow up in Buffalo, New York, you're kind of expected to be one. And I know that certainly isn't the case for everybody I know. You would be surprised by the number of 43-year-old weird, nerdy adults who were Bills fans as kids. Yeah, I was friends with a lot of them. I had friends over the years who still paid attention to the Bills. I did not. So here's why I suck as a Bills fan. I was 10 years old through 13 years old during the 4 Super Bowl years. I couldn't do it anymore. I was a mess of an adolescent, and I just associated those disappointments every January of my entire middle school career with how miserable I was from ages 10 to 13. And I was miserable. I was a very, very unhappy, fucked up preteen. So I put it aside and I stopped. You know, I lived in other places. I didn't go back to Buffalo. I had no desire to go back to Buffalo, which is another thing that if this ever gets out to sort of the standard Bills Mafia folks, it'll be another thing that gains me a lot of hatred, which is I fucking hate Buffalo. I mean, that's not entirely true. I hated my time living in Buffalo. I hated growing up in Buffalo. And I have a lot of negative feelings about the city and a lot of what the city represents to me in my brain. So I never wanted to go back. So I moved away. I lived in Chicago for college. So I lived in New York City for almost 7 years. I moved to Madison, Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, I had a lot of friends who were Green Bay fans, obviously. I also lived in Madison, so there was just a lot of fucking red and white Bucky Badger shit everywhere. And then I was married into a family of Steelers fans, so a lot of Steelers talk. And then just Bills chatter in the background from my friends who I grew up with, from my dad who tried to find a Bills backer bar everywhere I lived. And then we moved back to Rochester, way closer to Buffalo than I ever had any intention of being. My parents no longer live there. I had some family still there. I had a couple friends still there. I like to go back for pizza. If you're not from Buffalo, you don't know this, but if you're from Buffalo, you know this. Buffalo's a lot about pizza. People think it's about wings. It's not. It's about pizza. My pizza place is Casa de Pizza, which was originally on Elmwood Avenue, a couple blocks from my house. but is now on Mohawk Street downtown. I learned about the modern day Bills because I like Gaza Pizza. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I sort of started passively paying attention just based on some clips that I'd seen on TV, based on the Alan Diggs 2020 campaign signs I saw around my neighborhood. And I was like, what's going on with this? What's going on with this Josh Allen guy? Like, who are these people that people seem to think the Bills are good again? Like, what the fuck? What's going on? Not thinking that just because the Bills were good again, I would start paying attention to football again. That was never what I figured was going to happen. I'd gotten rid of cable a million years ago, before it was even cool to get rid of cable. As soon as I had a video iPod, I got rid of cable and just downloaded the shows that I wanted onto my iPod and streamed them through a very elaborate set of cords and boxes from Radio Shack to my shitty old box TV. So I didn't have cable. I didn't have access to sports. I didn't even have an antenna to watch local games. What I did have access to was, I learned that Google on my phone, just handy, you could take it with me everywhere, if you Google a team when a game is happening, it'll tell you what the score is. It'll have a little football that shows you who has possession, where it is, and it also has tweets underneath it. And so if you're weird and crazy like I am, it is actually relatively possible to follow a football game simply through Google and Twitter. The Bills were in the playoffs and just checking in to see what was happening, and discovered that they were playing a perfect game, that Josh Allen had scored on every drive, that they had not punted once. And I was just blown away. I was like, that's not a thing. Like, that's not a thing that happens. So I was intrigued. And then the next week, the Bills were playing the Kansas City Chiefs. I have a friend from Kansas City who I don't think realized, he'd seen me write on Facebook about the game the previous week. And I think he was under the impression that I was a bigger active Bills fan than I actually was. I wasn't actually watching the game. I was following it through tweets. He started messaging me to trash talk me. Another thing people might not know about me is that I am A, insanely competitive, and B, kind of an out of control trash talker. I'm not nice when I've got a competitor trash talking me. I'm gonna fuck with you. I'm gonna trash talk you hard. I trash talked my husband so badly once during a game of head-to-head Tetris on PlayStation 2 that he stormed out of the room. He took the disc out of the PlayStation, said, I don't want to play this anymore, and stormed out of the room because I was that big a bitch to him. So that's the sort of shit we're talking about. My friend Matt seemed to enjoy it, and so we were just trash talking each other during that whole game. The Bills went up at the end of the game with 13 seconds left. And with 13 seconds left, Patrick Mahomes marched the Kansas City Chiefs far enough down the field to score a field goal. And we're just never going to get over these things. We're just never going to get over these things. That was the end of the season for the Bills. And I said, next season I'm going to pay attention. The thing that's interesting also to know about me, as you can note by the 9,000 Funko Pops on my back wall, when I get into something, I really get into something. And I'm going to try and educate myself as much as possible about whatever that thing is. That meant I was going to pay attention to the Bills again, and I was going to do the work, and I was going to figure out what about the game had changed since I stopped really paying attention to it. The Houston Oilers don't exist anymore. Oh, a touchback is 25 yards now? Like, who fucking knew? So here I am. I think I'm going to start making some videos. Hopefully future videos won't have quite this many edits. I've decided to go with this weird TikTok-y format. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that. That's more because I fucked up a bunch of times, which is making me understand that most of those videos on TikTok are cut like that because they fuck up all the time. I fuck up a lot. They're mostly going to be about the Bills, but I'll of things to say about other games as well, because much to my children's chagrin, I've been watching multiple games, including teams that I really don't give a shit about. But like, if the Bears and the Browns are playing and it's going to have any effect on the Bills' chances to get into the playoffs, apparently I'm going to watch Bears-Browns games, which that ended badly the other night. I may have made some crazy, angry noises at that last Hail Mary. I was not happy about the outcome of that. Like I said, I'm trying to learn as much about this as I can, and I'm trying to actually like watch and learn from other people who know a lot more than I do. I've never understood the defensive side of things. I've never understood what any of that shit is. That's the difference, you know, between watching as a kid and watching as an adult. And as an adult, being like, well, it doesn't just matter that they win. It matters how they win and why they win. And I want to understand better why the Bills win or don't win. Sometimes it's as simple as Josh Allen threw 4 interceptions. That's why the Bills didn't win. And sometimes it's more like, well, the cover 0 defense with the Nickelback. Nickelback, they're a terrible band. I don't know what half of that means, but I'm going to learn. And I'm going to make you watch me learn about it. And hopefully it'll be entertaining.
Go Bills. Go Bills.
Good luck.
Go Bills. Go Bills.
Go
Bills. Go Bills. Go Bills.